Hello, everyone. This is Brian Wong with Next Big Future. Welcome. And I have my good friend Randy Kirk here. This is the second part of an analysis of the pricing and future of Tesla. And really, it's about Tesla fully becoming an AI company from 2025 to 2027 and then beyond that. So that is what's going to really drive the price. So to catch you up on where we're at, today is, as we record, Friday, December 13th. We just ended the week at $436 for Tesla, which is above the previous all-time high for a long time, for 2 years, 3 years, of $414. So we're in new territory for the stock. And we had a conversation where we discussed where, with all the positive sentiment in the stock market and with the stock, that getting to $500, $600 by the end of January is very doable. That's my prediction, $500, $600. And it's only, two technical levels above where we are now. Like one technical level to get to 500, and then another technical level to get to 600. And it really even could be 620 or 30. Because the stock price is up so much, the a little bit of, a 5% move would become $30, right? So it doesn't really take that much. Like I think today, or this week, we went up like, 10%, so those kind of moves can happen in a hurry.
We
And
went
it's
up
like, oh,
we went up more than 10% this week, didn't we? Weren't we what were we at the beginning of the week? I'll let you talk. I'll look real quick.
okay. So these kind of moves can happen in a hurry. So the again, to summarize what the major things are to move the stock. So just on momentum, we can get to 500 to 600 because there's a bunch of good news around what's happening with the stock, with the batteries, with the mega packs. Although they're increasing the price, we're we can see what's happening in terms of how many the weekly releases of cars in China. So we know we're going to have a good China number. It's going to probably be 50, 60,000 above what it was the quarter before. US is probably coming in good. Europe's coming in weak. So we're going to get very likely the 500 to 520,000 cars in for Q4. And that would just be, we don't have to outperform there because it's not going to outperform that much. But, just having a decent number there and then have decent earnings, we're already going to have not bad numbers, which is why we're, again, it's all part of the things that are good for Tesla. And then the big difference, though, is what is said on January 22nd and what does Trump do from January 20th to 31st for your end of the end of January. Because as Simon Hale, who helps manage a few billion dollars in Canada for find out with individuals, he says that it's that the BlackRocks and the other institutions analyze with AI what is happening on the earnings call, the second half of the earnings call, where like Elon's talking not on script about what's happened, but talking about going forward, and this how he says it and the tone, the vibe is something that they actually trade off of. So that is what will move the stock. And they could choose to sell off on the news and then move it up. So the day-to-day price move is not something that we as long-term traders should worry about. Anyway, so then we'll discuss now what's going to happen with AI. But go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, so your analysis, of course, it turned out to be so right. The 450 by the end of January looks like it's in the bag. I mean, we're 436, so even if you were wrong, who would be counting?
Right.
Um, for it not to go up by another 14 points between now and then, I suppose that's, I think we could be fairly confident that we're going to see that kind of move before the end of the month. So before the end of January, rather. I was way lower than you. I thought we would hit maybe four. I wasn't that much lower. I thought it would be an all-time high by the end of January. And then if any significant news broke, I thought we might break it above that. That significant news hasn't happened yet. So the
Mhm.
difference between you and me of 410, I was using the closing high. You're using
Yeah.
the AI. The difference between you and me was that 35 points or something, but you've obviously won this round, and
Yeah,
you've won it early, so early.
right, right.
Anyway, but I haven't had a chance really to reflect yet
Mm.
on your new analysis, which you just described to me last night, of the possibility of being at 500 to 600, and
Right.
also of just the fact that we have gone so far so fast and what
Mm.
that might mean between now and the end of January. So I don't have a new number yet. So I'm sorry.
Right.
I wish I could give you a new number. I
So,
still
so,
for the end of the year, though. I have a
right,
number, my 700 plus plus.
right. So end of 2025, 700 plus plus.
2025, end of
Yeah,
2025, 700 plus plus Robotaxi plus Optimus. Yeah.
right. But, so right now, because people are so nervous and they have post-traumatic stress syndrome from the fact that Tesla was down for 2 years,
Right.
2.5 years, that people keep thinking it's going to crash. It's going to crash again. Um, and it can always crash. You can do pullbacks, 5, 10, 25%,
Right.
can happen. And
Right.
then the macro can change. And so much of this is on the macro that big price moves down can and probably will happen.
Right.
So, but I would argue that because of the epic third quarter, where basically um, all the negative issues around margin, around FSD, around Robotaxi, the fact that they were operating Robotaxi for years supervised, all those things mean the big things are just a matter of time and not much time. It's going to be within the next, year or whatever that all these big things will happen in a significant way.
Right.
So if that's the case, then any pullback, 5, 10%, 25%, is a dip buying opportunity. And it's not going to be, you're not going to have to wait a year or 2 years to recover that.
Right.
It's going to come back. I would say, irregardless of a lot of the macro or the trading or that kind of thing. That, you know, in the period of 2019 to 2021 or something like that, when Tesla moved up 10x, it would do 30%, 30% pullbacks, but then it would recover and get it all back within three
Plus.
months, four
Yes.
months max, right? So that I believe is the era that we're in this 10x move over 3 years that
Hmm.
we're going to see. And it could even do more than 10x because
Hmm.
10x is assuming the robotaxi story gets pretty mature, FSD worldwide, China, Europe,
Right.
um, everywhere, and then getting up to initially 25% adoption rate. So that means for every million cars you sell, you would sell 250,000 FSD subscriptions or um, full prepaid
Right.
units on that. Just that part of the story can get us up to 10x, in my opinion, with energy doing a full release. But where basically energy goes to, well, by this year, we another week or so, the China factory could be for Megapacks could be operating. If it ramps up next year fully, then we're making $3 billion a quarter, $12 billion a year, which is more than our profit this year, right?
Right.
Um, then it will you know, get that full story. So um, so that
So
I
you're
think
thinking,
it
so you're thinking on FSD that on the order of a million cars a year might be doing FSD within the next couple of years, and or at a 25% take rate, you'd have like a million a year. And some of those will be on subscription, some of those will be buying the full package. So if it's a million a year times $10,000, say average, is that kind of where you're at? You figuring to go up to 10,000 when it's 100% ready to go?
yeah. So
So making the math easy. So 10,000 times a million is
10 billion.
10 billion. Yeah. I'm always
Right.
the powers of 10 always get me. Okay.
Mm.
So yeah, so you could be 10 billion a year within a couple of years.
Right, right. So let's skip forward
Okay.
to where we are in 2 years,
Right.
right? So no, for the next six to 9 months. So it seems like FSD fully solved, better than human. A bunch of indicators around that. It will happen. Robotaxi can get unsupervised by the middle of next year. And there's indication that we get a ChatGPT moment for TeslaBot all within 6 to 9 months.
Mhm.
So if that full story happens,
Mhm.
then and Tesla will be making over half of its money from AI related things, FSD, Robotaxi, Tesla Bot.
Okay.
However, that mix is, it's AI stuff,
Right.
right? And it's going to grow fast, and people will see that it's going to grow fast. It's going to maybe 10x every year. It goes from like 10, $20 billion dollars 2025 to 50, $100 billion dollars 2026 to, $500 billion dollars in 2027, right? The rocket ship and how fast and how much it could be because it's such this unlimited thing could be so transformative. And it will matter even though you could make $200 billion dollars, we're already making $100 billion dollars from cars. That could go to $200 billion dollars, $400 billion dollars,
Mhm.
even though they're both could be roughly the same, $500 billion dollars, $400 billion dollars. The fact that I got 90% margin on the AI stuff versus only 30%, 40% on the energy and the cars means that the full uh, Amazon Web Services transformation has occurred,
Right.
right? That the Amazon went from e-commerce to AWS cloud computing with 40% margin on the cloud stuff or something like that versus 10% or 15%, whatever on the other thing. So then all people care about is the AI stuff, is the Tesla bot, is the Robotaxi, and how fast that's rolling out, right?
Right.
It's by 2026, all the attention's on that. The
Right.
car stuff is nice, but whatever happens there, no one cares.
Right.
And then once the Tesla bot story takes over, and also the AGI part of the story, where it's like, working with XAI
Mhm.
on that full super intelligence stuff, then that's all the thing that moves the stock. Because if the stock has gone up 10 times, 20 times, it's up to, $3,000, $6,000. Whatever happened with cars, all the cars could blow up. The factory could be shut down. No one gives a crap,
Right.
right? So then, and even Robotaxi becomes, it's
Yes.
nice, it's important, but it becomes a small thing. The 80% thing becomes the Tesla bot and the AI story, right?
Right.
So then all that matters is how fast we're moving toward that. So I'm saying that we release Grok 3, Grok 4, Grok 5, Grok 6, and each one becomes 10 times better next year, 2025, right?
Yeah.
So then that pace of release, how much improves? Does it still scale with size? That is what's moving the stock and the story beyond 2020 into 2026 and 2027, right? So then everyone's analyzing it based on AI, just like no one's analyzing Amazon based upon internet and e-commerce, right?
Right.
Like how good was Prime Day?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No.
none of that matters. It's because all the stock value is in the becomes Tesla bot. And I think that can ramp up really, really fast. They could then make, you know, a million far faster and into the hundred millions. So then that becomes the entire uh, story and it's moving beyond that. Go ahead.
And I think also is that by 2026, even though they'll still only be putting them in factories, the story will start to become what is the future of it'll become a sexy story.
Hmm.
Working in a factory, no, that's not very sexy, except to us.
Hmm.
It'll be very sexy to the investor, but to
Yeah.
the average person out there, once they start toying at least with the idea of putting them in the homes, start showing them doing some things that could be in the homes, and maybe even a few rich people start buying them, for use in the home. I think then you move the entire story into what's actually sexier than a Model 3 performance. I
Right.
mean, the idea of having the thing follow you around and carry your bags through the
Yeah.
mall per that video from
Yeah.
the other day.
Right. So I think the major breakpoints are 250,000, where basically half at least of the people in the the workers in the factory are bots. In Tesla's factory, they're bots.
Right.
Going up to a million or 10 million means that every SpaceX factory, every XAI factory, all the production is going to. So they're up leveling themselves, and then they start up leveling the rest of the industry in the world.
Right.
And so then it's, and getting to 10 million or 100 million bots, if I can make 10 million cars, I can make 100 million bots,
Right.
right, per year. And
Sure.
so that transformation of utterly doing that, once the industry analysts say, okay, you're at 10 million bots, you're going to get to 100 million, it's done. And that happens by 2027, right? Then they pull forward. This is what Chris Camillo talks, the massive pull forward of it,
Yes.
right? So you'll start pulling a massive pull forward in 2025, and they see, oh crap, you go up 100 times that. I got 10,000 bots to a million bots in 2026. I do an even bigger pull forward of the 100 million bots. And
Right.
then if I'm 100 million bots, I'm pulling forward the billion, 10 billion. And the only one that can scale to that level that fast is Tesla. And
Right.
so, and then they're also their own customers, just like SpaceX, the only one with nearly 10,000 satellites,
Right.
right? Which is like 89% of all satellites up there, right?
Right.
So they can go to 99%, 99.9%. So the out manufacture everyone, which is what Elon said at Battery Day. Everyone else can start doing this, but we will out manufacture
Right.
them. So they'll out manufacture the AI future, not cars, but the
Mhm.
AI future on that. And that goes to, you know, the um, the stock value, the world economy becomes what does even money mean? And before that, what does our price targets mean? Since we need to have one, I will say, you know, it can become, 10,000. So that's 20 times, over 20 times where we are now, right? Which is a $30 trillion company. You know,
And
if
that's
this
what,
fully realizes, yeah,
and
yeah,
basically Elon says so.
right.
He says 25 trillion for the bot.
Yeah.
He agrees with Kathy Wood about 7 trillion for the Robotaxi. And
Mm,
that's then you've got everything else on top of that. So you're looking at a 32 plus $1 trillion company. He
right.
didn't put a date on it. She puts a date of 29 for the Robotaxi. He didn't put a date on for Optimus. But as you pointed out, I've pointed out, I have this ongoing argument with so many people. I'm trying to figure out, Brian, I can't figure out what the limiting factor is on building these simple bots. Once you can build a million of them, I don't know what the limiting factor is of
So
going
there,
five
there
or
is
two.
no limiting factor.
I can't
So
figure
that,
out one.
so Elon talked about making, billion CPUs or GPUs for AI data centers. He's
Yeah,
talked about getting to 1% of energy in the solar system or hitting the planet, which is
right,
like 500 times more than we have now, right?
right.
So if I make solar power covering Mars,
Yeah, yeah.
that is 1% of the solar energy of the
The US
Earth,
of
hitting
the
the
earth.
Earth.
Yeah,
500 times more power than here. And if they combine that energy with GPUs, and the thing is, that could be a 2040 thing, right?
yeah,
That they would in 2026 send the first five starships to
right,
Mars. And
right.
again, like people talking about, oh, this is crazy, but it's like these are the things that he has several, almost $1 trillion company like SpaceX at 350 is one third of a trillion. It's going
Yeah,
to get to $1 trillion next year, right? And so we have that $1 trillion company and then the multi-trillion dollar company of Tesla
yeah,
working toward this big goal. And he has the support of the president. His friend, Jared Isaacman, is running NASA, going to run NASA.
yeah, yeah.
His friend, David Sachs, is going to
That's
be in
right.
charge of AI and crypto. So we will
Yes.
go in this more in detail, but
Okay.
this is basically how things go pretty
In the
nutty
next few years.
in the next
Yeah.
few years.
Crazy time.
Right. Okay. So we'll talk again next time. Thanks
All
for your
right.
help.